From the Prelude, 1805 version, by William Wordsworth. Wisdom and spirit of the universe, thou soul that art the eternity of thought, that givest to forms and images a breath and everlasting motion, not in vain, by day our starlight thus, from my first dawn of childhood didst thou intertwine for me the passions that build up our human soul, not with the mean and vulgar works of man, but with high objects, with enduring things, with life and nature, purifying thus the elements of feeling and of thought, and sanctifying by such discipline both pain and fear, until we recognize a grandeur in the beatings of the heart. Nor was this fellowship vouchsafed to me with stinted kindness in November days, when vapors, rolling down the valleys, made a lonely scene more lonesome, among woods at noon, and mid the calm of summer nights, when by the margins of the trembling lake, beneath the gloomy hills, I homeward went, in solitude. Such intercourse was mine. 'Twas mine among the fields both day and night, and by the waters all the summer long. And in the frosty season, when the sun was set, and visible for many a mile, the cottage windows through the twilight blazed, I heeded not the summons. Happy time it was, indeed, for all of us. To me it was a time of rapture. Clear and loud the village clock tolled 6. I wheeled about, proud and exulting, like an untired horse that cares not for its home. All shod with steel, we hissed along the polished ice in games confederate, imitative of the chase and woodland pleasures, the resounding horn, the pack loud bellowing, and the hunted hare. So through the darkness and the cold we flew, and not a voice was idle with the din. Meanwhile the precipices rang aloud, the leafless trees and every icy crag tinkled like iron, while the distant hills into the tumult sent an alien sound of melancholy, not unnoticed, while the stars eastward were sparkling clear, and in the west the orange sky of evening died away. Not seldom from the uproar I retired into a silent bay, or sportively glanced sideway, leaving the tumultuous throng, to cut across the image of a star that gleamed upon the ice. And oftentimes, when we had given our bodies to the wind, and all the shadowy banks on either side came sweeping through the darkness, spinning still the rapid line of motion, when at once have I, reclining back upon my heels, stopped short, yet still the solitary cliffs wheeled by me, even as the earth had rolled, with visible motion her diurnal round. Behind me did they stretch in solemn train, feebler and feebler, and I stood and watched till all was tranquil as a dreamless sleep. A thought is with me sometimes, and I say, should earth by inward throes be rent throughout, or fire be sent from far to wither all her pleasant habitations and dry up, old ocean in his bed left singed and bare, yet would the living present still subsist victorious, and composure be ensue, and kindlings like morning press it sure, though slow perhaps, of a returning day. But all the meditations of mankind, yea, all the adamantine holds of truth, by reason built, or passion, which itself is highest reason in a soul sublime, the consecrated works of bard and sage, sensuous or intellectual, wrought by men, twin labourers and heirs of the same hopes, where would they be? Oh, why hath not the mind some element to stamp her image on, in nature somewhat nearer to her own? Why, gifted with such powers to send abroad her spirit, must it lodge in shrines so frail? One day, when in the hearing of a friend I had given utterance to thoughts like these, he answered with a smile that, in plain truth, 'twas going far to seek disquietude, but on the front of his reproof confessed that he, at sundry seasons, had himself yielded to kindred hauntings, and forthwith added that once upon a summer's noon, while he was sitting in a rocky cave by the seaside, perusing, as it chanced, the famous history of the errant knight recorded by Cervantes, these same thoughts came to him, and to height unusual rose, while listlessly he sate, and having closed the book, had turned his eyes towards the sea, on poetry and geometric truth, the knowledge that endures upon these two, and their high privilege of lasting life, exempt from all internal injury, he mused upon these chiefly, and at length, his senses yielding to the sultry air, sleep seized him, and he passed into a dream. He saw before him an Arabian waste, a desert, and he fancied that himself was sitting there in the wide wilderness, alone upon the sands. Distress of mind was growing in him when, behold, at once, to his great joy, a man was at his side, upon a dromedary, mounted high. He seemed an Arab of the Bedouin tribes. A lance he bore, and beneath one arm a stone, and in the opposite hand a shell of surpassing brightness. Much rejoiced the dreaming man that he should have a guide to lead him through the desert, and he thought, while questioning himself, what this strange freight which the newcomer carried through the waste could mean. The Arab told him that the stone, to give it in the language of the dream, was Euclid's Elements. And this, he said, this other, pointing to the shell, this book is something of more worth. And at the word the stranger, said my friend, continuing, stretched forth the shell towards me, with command that I should hold it to my ear. I did so, and heard that instant in an unknown tongue, what yet I understood articulate sounds, a loud prophetic blast of harmony, an ode in passion uttered, which foretold destruction to the children of the earth, by deluge now at hand. No sooner ceased the song, but with calm look, the Arab said that all was true, that it was even so as he had spoken, and that he himself was going then to bury those two books, that one that held acquaintance with the stars, and wedded man to man by purest bond of nature, undisturbed by space or time, th'other that was a god, yea, many gods, had voices more than all the winds, and was a joy, a consolation, and a hope. My friend continued, 'Twas strange as it may seem, I wondered not, although I plainly saw the one to be a stone, th'other a shell, nor doubted once but that they both were books, having a perfect faith in all that passed, a wish was now engendered in my fear, to cleave unto this man, and I begged leave to share his errand with him. On he passed, not heeding me. I followed, and took note that he looked often backward with wild look, grasping his twofold treasure to his side. Upon a dromedary, lance in rest, he rode, I keeping pace with him, and now I fancied that he was the very knight whose tale Cervantes tells, yet not the knight, but was an Arab of the desert too. Of these was neither, and was both at once. His countenance, meanwhile, grew more disturbed, and looking backwards when he looked, I saw a glittering light, and asked him whence it came. It is, he said, the waters of the deep gathering upon us. Quickening then his pace, he left me. I called after him aloud. He heeded not, but with his twofold charge beneath his arm, before me full in view, I saw him riding o'er the desert sands, with the fleet waters of the drowning world in chase of him, whereat I waked in terror, and saw the sea before me and the book, in which I had been reading, at my side. The immeasurable height of woods decaying, never to be decayed, the stationary blasts of waterfalls, and everywhere along the hollow rent, winds thwarting winds, bewildered and forlorn, the torrents shooting from the clear blue sky, the rocks that muttered close upon our ears, black drizzling crags that spake by the wayside, as if a voice were in them, and the sick sight and the giddy prospect of the raving stream, the unfettered clouds and region of the heavens, tumult and peace, the darkness and light, were like all workings of one mind, the features of the same face, blossoms upon one tree, characters of the great apocalypse, the types and symbols of eternity, of first and last and midst and without end.